Welcome to the Connection Requested podcast. I'm Mark Tweddle, co-founder of You Tell Yours, providing online team building events to connect your remote team. This podcast is all about making better connections with other humans. I don't know about you, but I rarely know the people who request to connect with me on LinkedIn. So this podcast is how we are going to get to know them. Accepting a LinkedIn connection should mean more than just a permission to send me marketing content. I want my LinkedIn connections to be more meaningful and closer to the connections that I make in person. And the best way to create that connection, that human understanding, is through storytelling. So each week, I get a guest to try some of the exercises that we developed for our team events. You know, it's difficult to fully communicate who you are in a LinkedIn profile, or a resume for that matter. So here's my weekly challenge. Look at my guest's LinkedIn profile before you listen and predict how you think they will sound. Or if you prefer, listen to the episode first and then predict what their LinkedIn profile will look like. Let's jump right in with our guest's name story. 2 minutes to tell the story of your name with no preparation. No one else can tell that story better than you. You are the subject matter expert after all.
My name is Blake Thomas Whealy. I was born in London, Ontario, Canada, to a Canadian father and American mother. And I started with my last name, I guess, to go backwards. It's butchered all the time. It's actually an incorrect spelling as well. Our last name is pronounced Whealy, but spelled W-H-E-A-L-Y. Or T-L-Y a lot of the time, A-L-E-Y, whatever. Pronounced Whealy a lot, Wheatley or Whalen or whatever it may be. But it's actually pronounced Whealy, E-A-L-Y, but it used to be A-L-E-Y, which is where the pronunciation came from. It was changed in 1850 to current spelling, however, because a trust in our family and the name was spelled wrong on the documents. They actually legally changed the spelling of our last name to what it is now to collect that money. Thomas is my dad's first name. That's like pretty straightforward, boring, not much else to say there. And Blake comes ironically from football, which is a sport that I have zero interest in, 0%. My mom had a crush actually on a football player in Canada named Blake Marshall, which I found out years later wasn't just a friend or like a name that she thought was cool. She came clean. So she named me Blake, got agreement with my dad on that. And I'm named after a football player. And I can't think of anything worse to do with my father, which I do exactly once a year at school football game. And after our session today, I'm actually going to call Miami to book my football ticket for later this year, which I'm dreading. So story of my name.
Thanks, Blake. You know, I feel Blake's pain of having a last name that is a spelling nightmare. Though I think with my family, it was that they just couldn't write. There was no trust fund that I know of, or certainly not one that they've thought to share with me. Anyhow, listening to Blake's story again while editing this, I realised that I know nothing about Canadian football, and I didn't think to ask about it at the time. It might be because I don't watch American football, or European football, or soccer as you might call it. If only I'd asked some questions about Canadian football, maybe I could have added a whole new flavour of football that I choose not to watch. Maybe that's a bit negative. Anyhow, let's get this show back on the road. Next we have Blake speaking for 3 minutes on what connection means to him.
So connections. I love working with people. I love working on a team. I always have. And I've worked with a lot of different teams and kinds of people. Just to kind of start from coming out of college, I joined a program through America called Teach for America, where you are trained over the summer after you graduate school. You're essentially put in Title I, which are low-income community schools with kids with several needs beyond just the financial part. There was very few students that looked like me. Other teachers, some were also Teach for America programs, some weren't, been there 30 years. You had all kinds of people, ages, races, gender, all of it. And that is when I learned that asking questions about others is the most effective and important thing you can do in starting a connection. And I guess I'll say maintaining a connection too. So, it demonstrates interest. You learn facts and passions and all those things about the other person. It requires you to actively listen. And you usually find out something super random that you wouldn't have expected. So asking questions for sure has been a key for me developing relationships. That is how I got hired at Carnival Cruise Lines, which was, along with Teach America, probably one of my 2 favorite jobs because it's just such a fantastic experience, great company, yada, yada, awesome coworkers. And I remember meeting a gentleman named Rob Borden, who's one of the most important professional and now personal connections that I have. And, just starting off by asking questions, what was it like working at American Airlines in the 80s? Kind of getting to know him before we got into my interview with him, who was going to be my boss, really got things off on the right foot to ask him questions again. He's been tremendously helpful wasn't only tremendously helpful at Carnival, just a great mentor, personally and professionally. But he was honest and open and transparent, not just, with a performance review or whatever it may be, but just straight up. And I don't think that, while we've gotten better in the world of doing that, I still don't think we have enough of it. Finally, speaking about connections, I've joined Lunch Club, which is where I obviously met Mark, and been working at my startup that is aimed at connecting people and bringing them together to travel. So, I've got through the pandemic essentially by meeting strangers like yourself and, meeting them once, twice, 10 times more, virtually because that's what we all have to do. And I've continued doing it, continued loving it. I guess my final statement is connections are not only good for work, they're not only good for getting the job. I think that they are healthy. And I don't think that you can have enough of them, even if it's a one-time encounter. We're all in this together.
Thanks, Blake. And there's the irony. Blake knows asking questions is key. And here I am, regretting that I didn't ask him about Canadian football. We could probably have bonded over the many different forms of football that fail to inspire us. Oh, we might need a disclaimer for that. If you're an avid supporter of football in any way, you tell yours does not guarantee your lack of enjoyment. The value of football in your life may go up as well as down, and often in unpredictable ways. Anyhow, more importantly, do you now feel that you're getting to know Blake? If you looked at his LinkedIn profile right now and you needed his service or advice, would you now be more comfortable having a call with him? I do hope so. If nothing else, I hope that you've learned that Blake Whealy is awesome. I'd love to know what you think. And if you have any comments or questions about this podcast, you can let me know via the comments on the show notes at connectionrequested.com or send a voice message via the Connection Requested page on anchor.com. Please share this podcast, preferably on LinkedIn, and keep on having fun making the best of connections.